John 13, verse 18. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, with all of you, I'm going to need all of your prayers and all of your amens this morning, because this morning's topic is the kiss of betrayal. The kiss of betrayal. It's going to be hard for me not to call. The kiss of betrayal. What do you think of when I say the word kiss? Now, I'm not talking about the music group KISS. Those of you that are older might remember. Or I'm not talking about the acronym, keep it simple, stupid. I'm talking about that thing that you do. Hopefully the first thing you thought of was your partner when I say kiss, or your children. But it's that thing that you do to somebody that you care a lot about. Kiss. What do you think of when I say the word betrayal? Some of you may think about that show Survivor, where at the end, always just gets to be right at the end, where they'll just, they'll come down to who's going to get voted off the island, and they'll betray each other, and one person will get just go, I didn't think that was going to happen, and then the person's gone off the island. Or some of you may think of betrayal is when your car doesn't start, when you get up in the morning and it's off to work, the car doesn't start. Or some of you may think that betrayal is when you go to your house, you get home and you try to switch on the light in this 100-degree weather, and you try to turn on the AC and the electricity is out. Or some of you may think betrayal is when you're on your cell phone and you're like me, it drives me nuts, the call will drop from nowhere, or your battery will be dead. But those are all things we can handle. That's betrayal on some level, but it's all stuff we can handle. We can put up with it. We get over it rather quickly. You can kick the car, you can throw the cell phone out the window, you can call the electric company. You can do something about that pretty quick, and you can get it handled. So as mad as we are, as much as we want to take out our aggression, we get over it because we know that that betrayal really wasn't malicious or hurtful or aimed at us personally. Something we can deal with. But it's when people betray us, it's when people, human beings, people we know that betray us, that we have the hardest time dealing with it. It's when somebody in your life that you know, or people in your life that you know betray you, that it becomes the hardest thing to deal with. Because we now know that people have control over their actions. People purposely do what they do, and they choose to abandon us. They choose to turn their back on us. They choose to do what they do. It didn't just happen. Judas Iscariot, and the scripture that we're looking at this morning, John 13:18, this is the story where Judas betrays Jesus with a kiss. He comes to him, and this is how he identifies Jesus as the one that they need to arrest, as if they didn't know. This is the one they need to arrest. I mean, really? Judas, did we really have to do the kiss? I mean, really? I mean, talk about just rubbing it in his face. Talk about just, they knew who he was. Everybody, this was like, if this had been 2012, they would have pictures on the top of their most wanted list. They would have on their computers a picture of Jesus. They knew who he was. Judas didn't have to go and give him a kiss on the cheek to identify him. This is the story in John 13 where Judas identifies Jesus with a kiss, betrays him with a kiss. Everyone in this room has had to deal with betrayal. Some have been betrayed, some have been the betrayer. Maybe a combination of both. Maybe you told a friend something who asked you to keep it a secret in confidence, and before the end of the day, everybody knew about it. Maybe you had an idea at work that you told a friend about, and they took it as their own and got a promotion, and it was your idea. Or maybe some of you took a vow for complete faithfulness to your spouse when you got married, and that has not kept you from straying into territory you do not belong. What does it feel like to be betrayed? I am convinced that the reason why you and I struggle with betrayal is because it comes down to respect. We feel disrespected. Whenever people feel disrespected, or they feel like somebody doesn't respect them, that's when we fall apart. We can handle most things because we're pretty strong in general. People are pretty resilient. We bounce back. We're pretty strong in that we can deal with life's problems that life throws us. But it's when somebody purposely disrespects me or you, that's when we fall apart. That's why we struggle with betrayal. Because I believe betrayal for us is a blatant disrespect of us. Somebody blatantly turns their back on us. Somebody blatantly shuts the door when we thought that door was open. Somebody blatantly looks you in the face, says one thing and is doing another thing. That's why we have a hard time with it, because we have been disrespected. Somebody disrespected you or me. That's why we have a hard time. So what does it feel like when somebody you trusted turned from you? Or when we find out someone betrayed us, it makes us angry. You know, Jesus knows what it feels like to be betrayed. It happened to him. Betrayal comes at the most crucial times of our lives. Why, I don't know. But betrayal many times will happen when you're at your lowest, when you're at your weakest, when you're struggling. All of a sudden, betrayal will happen. It'll come at the most crucial times of our lives. And we think of Jesus right at the end being betrayed. Betrayal comes at the hands of those who are closest to us. Why, oh why do the ones closest to us have to do it? Why do the ones have to do it that we're living with? Why does it have to be our kids or our children or our friends or our partners or our churches? Why does it have to be the ones closest to us? Judas Iscariot ate bread with Jesus the night before. In fact, he had the prize seat. He was sitting right next to Jesus. He got to sit the prize seat right next to him. And you know, if you ate with, back in those days, when you ate together, you only ate with people you liked. You should take a page out of that. We only ate with people you liked then. And so that's why Jesus got a lot of flack, because he ate with the Pharisees, remember? I mean, he ate with, what's the little guy, what's his list? Who did he eat with? He ate with people, Zacchaeus. You mentioned Zacchaeus is when he was at Lazarus' house. They had enjoyed fish grilled over the fire. To eat a meal with somebody meant you're closest to them. That's why Jesus was criticized for eating with the tax collectors and the sinners, and why Jews were forbidden to eat with the Gentiles. You just didn't eat with people you didn't like. Judas had eaten with Jesus. He was a highly trusted member of the group. He got to carry the money first. Highly trusted. Listen, an enemy cannot betray you. We expect an enemy to betray us. We expect people we don't like, people who are against us, people who are not, we don't count as very close friends. We expect an enemy to betray us. That's why they're an enemy. An enemy cannot betray you, but you expect a friend, a partner, a loved one, a family member, a sister, a brother. You expect them to defend you, to love you, to support you. When your expectations for those things are not met, you feel betrayed. Jesus, interestingly enough, was aware of who his betrayer was. Now that would have just driven me insane. He knew who his betrayer was. You know what I think he should have done? He should have just put him out in front street. He should have done, before they started that meal, he should have been like, so, anything you want to tell me? You know, and then all the disciples would have pounced on him. Don't you know, Peter, the big old rough Peter, the fisherman, don't you know he would have been the first one to climb over the table and grab him? He would have taken care of it. All would have been over there. But no, he didn't. He didn't single him out. Betrayal is not limited to those who have not experienced God's presence. Judas had experienced God's presence. Judas was there when they fed the 5,000. Judas was there when he saw Lazarus being raised from the dead. I mean, it's not like he didn't know who he was, which makes it even more powerful. It's not like Judas didn't know who Jesus was. He had seen the impossible. I mean, who gets to witness somebody walking out of a tomb? The Bible says he had been dead for 3 days. It says he stanketh. Okay. But I mean, 3 days he had been dead and he walked out of the tomb, and Judas got to see that. He saw, he shared the Passover meal with Jesus. He got to see it all. He had even been a part of the night before Jesus had washed his feet. Judas had been a part of all the blessings that came along with being with Jesus. That night would not have been a spiritual high point for anyone who was present. It would have been a spiritual high point for anyone who was present there. And yet Judas still chose to walk away into the night. Some of you come to church all the time. Some of the biggest betrayers are the ones that are in church all the time. They have experienced God. They've been in his presence. They have seen it all. They've experienced it all. They have been through every different kind of revival. They've had every move of God in their life. They've been zapped with oil every other day. They've fallen out. All of it has happened to them, and yet we're still betrayed. Betrayal doesn't just happen. For Judas, the cause was money. He had established a pattern of betrayal. He had been using money that was supposed to go for feeding the group and for supporting the group, supposed to be providing for the poor. He was using it for his own personal benefit. This was just one more link in the chain. For Peter, The cause was survival. Remember when Peter betrayed Jesus? And Jesus said, "You'll betray me 3 times." And he said, "No, I won't." And then the cock crowed 3 times. He betrayed Jesus. When you betray the people in your life, it doesn't just happen. There's causes. There's something that leads up to it. You'll see a pattern. It doesn't just, you don't just wake up one day and it happens. Betrayal will be the darkest time in your life. Betrayal can be when people let you down, when your expectations are not met of a relationship or of a situation, when your expectations are not met. When you think you're going in one way and your expectations are one thing and you don't get it, that's when you start to think and feel betrayed. You feel like you have been let down and the other person has not come through on their side of the bargain. That's betrayal. Betrayal is when you feel like you were meant to end up and it was meant to be one way because you believed, you were led to believe it was going to be one way, and yet it's completely another way. That's betrayal. A few hours later in the morning, Judas realized what he had done and what his actions had caused. He couldn't bear the weight. It could have been a dark time for Jesus too, but he recognized that God was in control. That's how you deal with betrayal, folks. God is in control. You can never ever for 1 minute think that God is in control of your life, even though it may be hard to believe at times. Even though it may be hard to believe that God is running your life and in charge of your life and ordering the steps of the righteous are ordered of God. It may be hard to believe that God has his hand on your life, especially when things are going wrong and wrong and wrong, and it's like, when can they go right and they keep going wrong? God is in control. The darkest of Judas' act brought about the light of God's forgiveness through the death of Jesus. Betrayal does not need to be the end of the relationship. Since he was not able to bear the weight of what he did, Judas went out and killed himself. Could Judas have been forgiven? Absolutely. Absolutely, Judas could have been forgiven. All he had to do was turn immediately. That's why I wish they would have put him on Front Street the night before, because then they would have beat him up, and then he could have said, "Okay, I'm sorry." And it would have been all over with. Judas could have been forgiven, absolutely. The same blood that can cleanse me from the guilt of my acts of treason against the Son could have forgiven Judas as well. Peter, too, he betrayed Jesus. When he realized what he had done, he went out and he wept. He was very remorseful and sorry for what he said. But instead of killing himself, 3 days later, Jesus rose from the dead and forgave him. Every time, listen to this, y'all, every time Judas is